live on camera so that you can also walk away with zero bill. By the end of this video, you would know how to deploy Next.js app the same way. Let's now the longer story. If you are a developer who has been paying too much for Vercel or Netlify, or you have been too scared to touch AWS because of the horror stories regarding billing, this is for you. For AWS services, S3 for build static files, CloudFront for global delivery, ACM for free HTTPS, routes 53 to point to the domain, 0 servers to manage. For CloudForge specifically, this is the shop window, the engine, the API, the database, the actual deployment automation comes in episode 3 through to 6. But every user of CloudForge will eventually deploy their own app through this exact, which means that what we set up today is going to be a pattern that scales to thousands of deployments later. But wait, why not Vercel? I have used Vercel before. It's great for a number of things, but the charge, you and I know. For CloudForge, that will be platform tag that I wouldn't want to pass on to users. What about Netlify? The problem is that when you have free tier, you end up hitting your limit quite fast. I started paying, but I still felt the limitation. What about Amplify? AWS own managed platform. It would work, but it hides the primitives. And CloudForge's whole thesis is that small teams would be able to own their own infrastructure when the primitives are understood. AWS raw services are cheap, no vendor login, and I am able to actually understand what I am running. That's the trade-off. Concretely, imagine that a shopkeeper in Berlin opens the dashboard and a founder in Nairobi opens at the same time. CloudForge would be able to serve both from edge location closest to them. HTTPS builds customer trust the moment they see the padlock. Every second of load time cost conversions. That is why we are doing this instead of just serving from a single server somewhere. S3 is object storage, but that is not why I chose it here. I chose S3 because it's the cheapest. Most durable static file saw AWS offers, even 9 of durability, fractions of a cent per GB, and it integrates cleanly with CloudForge. First, we are going to create the packet, name it, and it's supposed to be unique globally. So we are going to call it CloudForge production dashboard. That name matters because CloudForge will reference it. Block all public access, all 4 checkboxes. We are never serving files directly from S3 directly. CloudForge will access it through origin access identity pattern. OAC uses ZigV4 signed requests from CloudFront to S3, supports all S3 features including SE, KMS, and works consistently across regions. If you see a tutorial using OAI, that's the legacy part. Remember to enable versioning. It costs nothing until versioning accumulates and gives you a real rollback path when deploy breaks. Business value. If a bad deploy takes down your site during a client's demo, you could be back live in seconds in one click. Next.js changed the static export workflow a while back. So instead of running next export as a separate command, you add output export to your next.config.js. Then npm run build produces out directory automatically. One command. The contents of out directory need to sit at the bucket root, not the folder itself. If you upload the folder, users hit out/index.html, which won't browse correctly. For the demo, I am using AWS S3 sync from the terminal to make this behavior explicit. Now we have our files app locked down, rollback ready. Now the next thing. I chose CloudForge because a shopkeeper in Berlin and a founder in Nairobi both need this dashboard to feel instant. CloudForge serves cached content from AWS Global Edge Network, 400 plus locations, instead of pulling from wherever your origin lives. That's the difference between 800 ms and 80 ms load time for global or about the deployment order. The cleaner path is S3 first, then ACM in US1, DNS validation, then CloudFront with certificate already attached, then routes 53 alias last. I am going to walk you through this order order I actually ran because that's what most people will experience on their first. Create CloudFront first with default sets, then attach custom certificate after ACM issues. Both order work. Create distribution, origin, your S3 backend via REST endpoint. That's the detail that trips people out. Why? Because the REST endpoint lets us restrict bucket access through origin access control. CloudFront signs its requests to S3 with ZIG v4. The bucket policy only trusts requests coming through this specific distribution. Direct S3 URL, return access denied. That's the whole default root object, which is the HTML index.html viewer protocol policy directs HTTP to HTTPS complex objects automatically. Good. Anything can happen on the first trial for sure. Deployment could take several minutes. AWS is propagating configuration across the edge location network. During this time, we will request the certificate. Now, I chose ACM because HTTPS is not optional in 2026. Every browser flags HTTP size as not secure, which kills trust the moment a small business owner opens your app. ACM gives you the certificate for free, auto renews forever, integrates natively with CloudFront. No other TLS solution on AWS is worth considering for the start. Importance for CloudFront, the certificate must be in US East 1, North Virginia. It doesn't matter where your other resources live. CloudFront's control panel is anchored in US East 1 and only reads certificates from that region. Request a public certificate. Add your domain. In our case, it's going to be cloudforge.charitydarko.com. Optionally add the www variant. Validation method. We are going to use DNS validation. Email validation is fine for testing, but it doesn't renew automatically. ACM gives you a CNAME record to add to your DNS. Add it to Route 53 or your registrar. Wait few minutes, sometimes longer if TLS are conservative. Validation now flips to issue. Now come back to CloudFront and attach the certificate. This is the extra step from the deployment order we discussed earlier. Because we created CloudFront before ACM, we edit the distribution now by going to general settings, alternate domain names, add the domain name we use, custom SSL certificate, select the ACM set, save. If you had created ACM first and DNS validation before CloudFront, this edit round trip wouldn't be needed. Now, checkpoint. We have sets requested, DNS validation record added, set issued, set attached to the distribution. I chose Route 53 because it integrates natively with CloudFront through alias records. Alias records lets you point a domain at AWS resource without an IP address, which matters because CloudFront's IP change, standard CNAME, can't do this at the apex domain. Route 53 alias can. That's the technical reason. First, check whether you already have a hosted zone for CloudForge.charitydarko.com. If you registered the domain through Route 53, the hosted domain exists automatically. If you registered elsewhere but already delegated DNS to Route 53, the hosted zone already exists. You would be surprised at how often people create duplicate one. Only create a new hosted zone if there isn't one. Create hosted zone for the domain. Copy the 4 name server AWS gives you. Update your name server registrar to use those name servers. Wait for propagation. It's going to take about 5 minutes. It could be more. Now create a record. Set the name. Record type to A. Alias yes. Route traffic to alias to CloudFront distribution. Pick the distribution we created. Save. Give DNS a moment. Open the domain, which is cloudforge.charitydarko.com in a browser. If everything is wired correctly, the dashboard loads on the custom domain with HTTPS. We are almost done. We now have our full stack live. HTTPS, global delivery, custom domain. That's the shop window. Here is the production problem. You push a bug fix to the dashboard. Rebuild locally. Sync S3. Refresh the browser. Bug is still there because CloudFront is serving cached content. CloudForge cache behavior is governed by the cache policy on the distribution and cache headers on your origin return. Things like cache control and expire. There is no universal default TL of 24 hours. It depends on how you have configured the distribution when your origin sent. The fix is to create CloudFront invalidation. AWS CloudFront create invalidation distribution ID. With this, it costs 0.005 USD per 1,000 pass. Instantly clears the cache. For a Next.js static export, the practical pattern is JavaScript, HTML, CSS, handles get hashed. File names like main.this. When content changes, the file name changes, and the browser and CloudFront naturally fetch the new file. No invalidation needed for those. The problem is the HTML files, which is index.html, for instance, keeps the same name across deploys. So caches keep serving the old HTML that references the old asset. When HTML changes, you invalidate. The fix invalidates the cache. In CloudFront console, or via the CLI, AWS CloudFront creates invalidation distribution ID XYZ. With this, the wildcard counts a single invalidation path. They've changed command across your account. For most solo projects and small teams, invalidation are effectively free. Beyond that, they are charged per path. The invalidation propagates in seconds to a couple of minutes depending on the network. In production, this belongs in deploy pipeline. Sync the build to S3, invalidate CloudFront done. For projects with many deploys per day, the smaller pattern is invalidating only the index.html and letting hashes assets take care of themselves. That keeps you well under the free tier. Now we have our deployments. Our dashboard is live at cloudforge.charitydaco.com. HTTPS is set up. We have global delivery, rollback via S3 versioning, cache invalidation via one CLI command. And now the moment I am actually scared of, I'm going to delete everything. Every resource I just created, distribution, certificates, DNS record, all gone. Because that's the real reason developers avoid AWS, the bill. Just so you know, you want to know that you can undo what you did. So here it goes. Account back to zero. No lingering costs, no surprise bill at the end of the month. Just prove that you can play with real AWS infrastructure and walk away. Lessons I wish someone had told me. I spent years avoiding AWS because I thought it was too expensive. What I learned today wasn't just how to deploy a website. It was that fear of AWS comes from not understanding the billing model. Once you know which services you are using and how to clean up when you are done, AWS becomes less much intimidating. It's not a monster, it's just a lot of primitives. And each primitive price predictably. The second lesson, I am not going deep into IAM policies here because that deserves its own episode. Same for VPC networking, S3 lifecycle rules, CloudFront cache behaviors. This series is a bill, not a lecture. Every rabbit hole becomes a full video. The third lesson, if I can deploy this on camera without breaking anything permanent, you can do it too on your laptop. Now, this is the update. Episode 1 was security foundations. Episode 2A was AI engineering. Episode 3, we went deep into Claude design and Claude code. Episode DD, deploying the frontend on AWS. We still have episode 3, which would be production database. Episode 4, episode 5, episode 6. Next Tuesday, episode 3, we deploy CloudForge API to EC2, Docker containers, security groups, elastic IPs. If today was the shop window, episode 3 is the engine behind the standard process. Please subscribe, sign up to my newsletter, check out my GitHub. See you next Tuesday.